1968. Somewhere in West Africa, a child is dying from hunger. Thousands of miles away, the world watches in shock. A nation called Biafra is fighting for survival. Within months, millions will be caught in one of the most devastating wars in modern African history. But this wasn't just a war. It was a crucible, forged in the fires of colonialism, ambition, and fear. A nation born of desperation, clinging to existence for just 133 days. To understand the fleeting dream of Biafra, we must first journey back to its unlikely genesis, colonial Nigeria. A land rich in culture, diverse in peoples, yet arbitrarily carved from a continent by distant European powers. The British, seeking resources and trade routes, drew lines on maps with little regard for the ancient kingdoms, languages, and religions that had thrived there for centuries. British rule, though it brought infrastructure and administration, also sowed the seeds of future discord. The amalgamation of the northern and southern protectorates in 1914 by Lord Lugard created an administrative convenience, not a unified nation. It merged disparate peoples. The largely Muslim, feudal north with its powerful emirates. The religiously and politically diverse southwest, dominated by the Yoruba, and the southeast, primarily Igbo, with a more decentralized republican social structure, each with distinct worldviews, and often historical rivalries. This artificial construct, this mistake of 1914, as some would later call it, inherently fostered ethnic tensions. The British system of indirect rule, empowering traditional leaders in some regions, while creating new structures in others, often inadvertently exacerbated these divisions, setting up a power dynamic that would eventually fracture the nascent nation. But the roots of the crisis stretched back decades, long before the first shots were fired. October 1st, 1960. Nigeria achieved independence. A wave of hope and optimism swept across the new nation. The giant of Africa, with its vast resources and vibrant people, seemed destined for greatness. Leaders like Nnamdi Azikiwe, Obafemi Awolowo, and Ahmadu Bello spoke of unity and progress. But beneath the surface, the inherited regional divisions quickly intensified. The country was divided into three powerful regions: North, West, and East, each largely dominated by one of the three major ethnic groups. Political rivalries were fierce, often along ethno-religious lines, as each region vied for control of the federal center and its vast oil wealth. The delicate balance of power was easily swayed, and the concept of national unity remained fragile, a tapestry woven with threads that often pulled in opposing directions. Instead of forging a single Nigerian identity, many remained loyal to their ethnic groups first. This, combined with a deeply flawed census that fueled regional disputes over representation and resources, created a volatile atmosphere. The fragile dam burst in January 1966. A group of largely Igbo junior army officers, disillusioned by corruption and perceived northern dominance, staged a violent military coup. Key political and military leaders, predominantly from the north and west, including Prime Minister Abubakar Tafawa Balewa and Northern Premier Ahmadu Bello, were brutally assassinated. Though the coup plotters claimed to be motivated by nationalistic ideals, the ethnic composition of its leaders and victims created an immediate and devastating perception: an Igbo plot to dominate Nigeria. This single event shattered any remaining illusion of national unity and ignited a profound sense of injustice, particularly in the north. 6 months later, in July 1966, a brutal counter-coup followed. Northern officers, seeking revenge and restoring regional balance, overthrew the new military government. General Yakubu Gowon, a relatively unknown northern officer, emerged as the new head of state. The assassinations during the counter-coup were largely of Igbo officers, further cementing the ethnic divide within the military and the nation. The military now governed, but not with a unified vision. Instead, growing mistrust festered. The streets were no longer safe for all Nigerians. The stage was set for a descent into unimaginable horrors. The coups unleashed a wave of horrific anti-Igbo violence, starting in May and escalating into September and October of 1966. Pogroms swept across northern Nigeria. Igbo civilians, many of whom had lived and worked in the north for generations, became targets of systematic attacks. Homes were looted and burned, businesses destroyed, and tens of thousands brutally murdered. Eyewitness accounts spoke of unspeakable brutality. Men, women, and children hacked to death, thrown into wells, or burned alive. The police and military often stood by, or worse, participated. The state, meant to protect its citizens, had failed a significant portion of its population. And this is the part many people outside Africa never learned: the full, devastating scale of the premeditated violence. Millions of Igbo and Eastern Nigerians, fearing for their lives, abandoned their homes, their livelihoods, and everything they owned. They fled in a desperate exodus back to their ancestral lands in the eastern region. Over 1 million refugees, traumatized and impoverished, flooded into a region already struggling to support its population. The Eastern Regional Government, led by Lieutenant Colonel Chukwuemeka Odumegwu Ojukwu, was overwhelmed. For the Igbo people, the message was chillingly clear. Their safety, their very existence, was no longer guaranteed within the Nigerian Federation. The demand for self-preservation became paramount. In the wake of the massacres, political negotiations became a desperate charade. The Aburi Accord in Ghana, an attempt to decentralize power and save the Federation, offered a glimmer of hope in January 1967. Ojukwu and Gowon agreed to a loose confederation, granting regions greater autonomy. But upon returning to Nigeria, the federal government, fearing a slippery slope to complete disintegration, reneged on key aspects of the agreement. The failure of reconciliation, coupled with a federal decree dividing Nigeria into 12 states, a move Ojukwu saw as an attempt to undermine the eastern region's unity and control over its resources, pushed the East to the brink. Ojukwu, a charismatic and resolute leader, found himself at the helm of a population that felt utterly abandoned and betrayed by the Nigerian state. Surrounded by millions of traumatized refugees, and facing what he perceived as an existential threat, the path to secession became the only viable option for his people's survival. On May 30, 1967, after months of agonizing deliberations and failed peace efforts, the eastern region declared its independence. With the stroke of a pen, the Republic of Biafra was born. A nation had been born, but could it survive? It was an act of profound courage, born of despair, setting a small, fledgling nation against the might of the Nigerian federal government. This decision marked the official end of negotiations and the grim beginning of a war for existence. Within weeks, the war began. The Nigerian federal government, under General Gowon, viewed secession as an intolerable challenge to the nation's unity and territorial integrity. Their rallying cry, "To keep Nigeria one," is a task that must be done. The goal was swift, decisive action to quash the rebellion. The first federal offensives were swift and brutal. Biafran forces, initially poorly equipped but fiercely motivated, put up stiff resistance. Major battles were fought over key cities like Enugu, Biafra's initial capital, and later Port Harcourt, crucial for its oil facilities. The Federal Army, eventually aided by foreign powers, steadily advanced. Biafra, isolated and outgunned, resorted to remarkable ingenuity. Its engineers developed local arms and ammunition, even creating the Biafran Air Force with converted aircraft. But it was a struggle against overwhelming odds. For millions of civilians, the war meant a relentless nightmare. Villages were destroyed, families separated, and the ordinary rhythm of life ceased to exist. They were caught between advancing armies, subjected to aerial bombardments, and forced into an endless cycle of displacement. For millions of civilians, survival became the only objective. A daily struggle against unimaginable odds. The conflict wasn't just an internal Nigerian affair, it was inextricably linked to the Niger Delta's vast oil resources. Discovered in commercial quantities in the late 1950s, this black gold transformed Nigeria's economy, but also became its curse. Biafra, encompassing much of the oil-rich areas, sought control over these vital revenues to fund its war effort and build its nation. This immense wealth attracted intense international interests. Britain, Nigeria's former colonial master, quickly sided with the federal government, providing military aid and diplomatic support, anxious to protect its substantial oil investments with Shell BP. The Soviet Union also backed Nigeria, seeing an opportunity to expand its influence in Africa. France, under Charles de Gaulle, on the other hand, offered covert support to Biafra, driven by a complex mix of anti-British sentiment, a desire to destabilize an Anglophone power, and perhaps even access to future oil concessions. The United States officially maintained neutrality, but indirectly supported Nigeria through humanitarian aid, wary of alienating a major African nation and potential Soviet inroads. Oil didn't just fuel the war, it dictated the geopolitical chess game surrounding it. As the federal blockade tightened, cutting off Biafra from the outside world, a different kind of weapon emerged: starvation. Food and medical supplies dwindled to nothing. The images that began to emerge from Biafra shocked the conscience of the world. Children, their bellies distended by kwashiorkor, their eyes vacant with hunger, became the tragic symbols of the conflict. This wasn't accidental. The blockade was a deliberate strategy by the Nigerian government to cut off Biafra's supply lines, both military and civilian. It was a brutal calculation that brought unimaginable suffering to millions. Malnutrition was rampant, and disease, particularly measles and cholera, swept through crowded refugee camps with deadly efficiency. Estimates vary, but by the war's end, over 1 million Biafran civilians, overwhelmingly women and children, are believed to have died from starvation and disease. It was a humanitarian disaster on an unprecedented scale, brought directly into the homes of people across the globe through powerful, often gut-wrenching media coverage. These images of suffering broadcast internationally fueled a massive global outcry. They forced the world to confront the horrific human cost of political ambition and military strategy. The world could not ignore the unfolding tragedy. Organizations like the International Committee of the Red Cross, Caritas International, and Joint Church Aid launched massive humanitarian operations, flying in food and medicine through dangerous, often contested airspace. The famous Uli airstrip, a converted highway, became Biafra's lifeline, defying the federal blockade. Public sympathy for Biafra grew rapidly, especially in Western nations. Intellectuals, celebrities, and ordinary citizens rallied, demanding intervention. The humanitarian crisis, more than any political argument, became Biafra's most potent weapon in the court of world opinion. Yet, despite the immense public pressure, governments remained largely committed to the principle of territorial integrity, fearing that recognizing Biafra would set a dangerous precedent for other secessionist movements across Africa and beyond. The politics of nations outweighed the cries of suffering. By late 1969, Biafra's position was untenable. The federal offensive, codenamed Operation Tailwind, pushed deep into the last remaining Biafran strongholds. Exhausted, starved, and running out of ammunition, the Biafran military began to crumble. On January 10, 1970, General Ojukwu, realizing the cause was lost, fled into exile. 5 days later, on January 15, 1970, the acting Biafran leader Philip Effiong formally surrendered to the Nigerian federal government. The war was over. The nation that existed for 933 agonizing days vanished from the map. In the immediate aftermath, General Gowon declared a policy of no victor, no vanquished. The federal government launched efforts to reintegrate Biafrans back into Nigeria, aiming for reconciliation. Rehabilitation programs were initiated, and a spirit of healing was officially encouraged. However, the wounds of war ran deep. The policy of changing Biafran currency at a highly unfavorable rate, essentially impoverishing many survivors, and the lack of proper restitution for lost properties left a bitter taste and long-term economic disparity. The psychological scars, particularly for those who experienced the famine and violence, remained profound. The Nigerian Civil War was the costliest conflict in post-colonial Africa, with an estimated 1 to 3 million lives lost. Its consequences reverberated for generations, shaping the political landscape, military rule, and ethnic relations in Nigeria for decades to come. The memory of Biafra never disappeared. Even today, the specter of the Civil War continues to influence modern Nigeria. Debates about resource control, marginalization, and calls for self-determination echo the grievances of the past. The country grapples with the enduring challenge of forging a true national identity from its diverse ethnic tapestry. The lessons about nation-building, the perils of unchecked ethnic tension, and the devastating impact of arbitrary colonial borders remain as relevant as ever. The story of Biafra is not just a forgotten file. It is a profound cautionary tale. A story of how millions of ordinary people became trapped in an extraordinary struggle, highlighting humanity's capacity for both immense cruelty and incredible resilience. The nation that existed for 933 days, though gone, continues to demand its story be told, understood, and remembered. History shows us where we've been, but technology shapes how we remember it. What you just witnessed, from the visuals to the narration, was crafted using advanced artificial intelligence, bringing the echoes of the past into the modern era. Creating these immersive stories takes immense curation and effort. If you want to see how far we can push the boundaries of storytelling, hit that subscribe button right now. Your support is the only way this channel grows. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next chapter.